destiny.
All right, well, as you can see, I've got a vertical log splitter here. It is a Axis by EASTONMADE. And yeah, this is Adam's log splitter, and he's letting me borrow it. There's no sponsorship. I don't get anything out of the deal here from Axis or Adam. Just wanted to go through some of the things on this thing that I actually really liked, as opposed to a horizontal log splitter. One thing on this that is super nice is this table here is right about at my waist height, and that log lift actually really makes it nice for bringing that pile up. And I can throw, geez, on these smaller ones I could throw a dozen on there or something like that. But wanted to kind of talk about the motion of running one of these machines. All right, so when I talk about the motions of these things on a horizontal log splitter, as kids, as young men, we would have to pick up a log off the ground, pick it up, and you would set it on that splitter, which was literally about 1.5 feet lower. So you were always like this. And every time you would run the ram in and split, the log would always roll away from you and one would roll towards you. What I didn't like about that is you were constantly leaning across and pulling back on that other half of the log. And back in that day, they hadn't invented the table to catch the logs that you see now. When they split, they land on a table. So we used to have to pick up that one log we split at least 4 or 5 times if it was a good sized log, because the half each time it split fell over the other side. But what I really like about this one is there's literally no bending over and doing any pulling motions to when the log is split. So when I bring these in off of the log lift, or if I just pick one up and set it here, when I bring it in here and do this split, I can contain these 2 logs to stay upright. So when they're in that upright position, all I really have to do is keep rotating it or turning it. And if I do have a large log and I want to get some out of the way, I slide it over on this big, huge table. So I used this the other day for about an hour. And it was the longest Adam would ever let me use it at his house. But I guess the reality of it is when I used this thing, I walked away very impressed. As soon as we can get EASTONMADE to give him a newer, bigger, better one, then maybe in the comments you can let him know to sell neighbor Doug this one. The newfound, there's got to be a better way. And I'll tell you what, this particular machine is a much better way of splitting wood. Well, looky who just stopped by. I was telling Adam that I was going to go ahead and start splitting up some rounds, and we'd been talking about this splitter and me borrowing it. And before we actually left this house, what was it, Adam, that you said you'd really like to have removed on this thing?
The conveyor.
So there was a conveyor that went through this pin, and it rose up so you could dump it into what, a basket or a
Dump trailer, pickup truck.
Yep.
It was a 7 or 8 foot conveyor.
All right. And for a guy like myself, who I only will split into a basket. Now, I know Adam will split into his trailer. You'll split into your trailer once in a while, but you usually do that with your Yappa, right?
Yeah, I usually use the firewood processor with the trailer. And then what I started doing was using this to resplit stuff that was too big coming off of the processor, or stuff that was too big to go through the processor. I would use this for. And so I started pretty much just splitting and stacking into a basket, much like what you're going to do here today.
All right. And I know going over and helping Adam, or actually it's more like Adam letting me watch. going over there and watching run into a IBC tote, and I've watched so many woodyard videos of all different people that will run these things split onto a conveyor and into a basket or a dump trailer or whatever. And the only logical thing I can see, or the only logical reason I could see why you would do it that way, is if you were selling it by the dump trailer load. So you split, and Adam, you're going to have to either agree or disagree with me. So as you split, it goes into that dump trailer. You take that dump trailer and sell that. But if you are then taking them from a dump trailer and stacking them into IBC totes, my school of thought, my training of thinking, and everything I've done in my lean manufacturing in all those years is handle that as little as possible. I'm sorry for butting in, but the product you're working with, your material, handle it as few times as possible. So I guess I'd like to hear your rebuttal on that if you got one.
So the only reason that I would have previously loaded into a dump trailer and then stacked it later is doing it this way, you are stacking while the engine is running. And yes, it's only a small little Honda engine that doesn't use very much fuel, but I know it takes 15 minutes to stack one of these baskets. So essentially you're running that engine for 15 minutes while you're stacking it. So you're wasting a little bit more fuel, but you're also saving time in not handling the wood twice. So it's a catch-22. I don't know how much fuel you burn in 20 minutes to stack a basket, but something to think about.
The reality of it is even if you're by yourself here, splitting it and putting it into a basket, I personally think saves you time. One, it saves you injury chances. You've eliminated injuring yourself by taking materials out of that dump trailer, handling that stuff twice. You want to go from your raw log or your unsplit log to your selling point or your mechanism that you're using to sell that firewood out of. And do you find yourself selling baskets of firewood, or what do you see you do more thereof?
Yeah, I don't sell a lot of dump trailer loads full of wood every year. I'd say maybe 5 or 6. The majority of it is these IBC totes. I'll load them up in the bed of the pickup truck, bring them down to my roadside stand at my place, throw them in the pickup truck, bring them to your roadside stand, or I'll have some people that they'll just get a third of a cord and I'll take it to their house and deliver it that way. So yeah, most of what I do with firewood is in the IBC tote.
All right. So ultimately, let's think about this in one other step. If you're loading your dump trailer today and you get half of a dump trailer load, and tomorrow all of a sudden you need to move a piece of equipment, your tractor, and use your trailer, or you're going to go get some pipe or some lumber or some gravel out of your trailer, what are you going to do with that half a dump trailer load of firewood?
I'm either going to try to stack it real quick, but if I'm in a hurry, I'm probably going to go take it somewhere in the middle of the wood yard, dump it, and stack it later.
Okay.
And then have to pick it up off the ground instead of out of the dump trailer.
All right. So I'm presenting these scenarios for you guys, in case any of you ever have been presented with this situation where you think you're going to be further ahead by putting it into a dump trailer off a conveyor. It feels like less handling to you, but in reality, you use that dump trailer for a lot of other things, and you can't always guarantee that you as a busy person is going to get a full dump trailer load and be able to unload that, stack it into your IBC totes within that whole time frame of today is wood day, we're doing wood, versus okay, tomorrow I've got other projects. So I guess what I'm trying to get at here is, in my mind, right or wrong, and you guys can argue with me, you can tell me in the comments how crazy I am, but I sincerely think that it is much less labor, much less time to split directly to an IBC tote. These are a very, very good container and carrier. You can manipulate and move these things around the yard all day long pretty easy, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
And they're probably a preferred container for you and 99% of everybody else that does firewood.
The problem is people have realized how valuable they can be for firewood or other uses, and people have started, they used to just give them away, and now people are charging for them. So you really have to hunt to try to find somebody that's wanting to get rid of them more than they want to make money off.
That's because all of us YouTubers gave that idea away. We all said, look what I did and look how nice it is, and now everybody wants them. Yeah. But yeah, they're harder to come by, but the reality of it is they're harder to come by because of the convenience. They're easy to store wood in. what do you call this, a third of a cord?
Depends. This one here is the shorter basket, so this is probably about a quarter of a cord. I think they're 270 gallon IBC tote, and then the 330 ones have an extra rung that goes up a little higher, and those ones are a third of a cord.
All right. So it's also a good, easy way to judge how much firewood you've split in a day. You know, you come out and you say, I've split 4 baskets. Why, you know, just because this is kind of also a measurement device, that means you split about a cord of wood.
The one downside to these is you do need an extra piece of equipment to move them around. You need a tractor or a skid steer or something.
When you talk about a second piece of equipment, yeah, I had to get the tractor out to move these things around. But I know in the past, Adam and I have talked and I've searched for different motorized pallet movers. And I think there's a market out there for them. It's just too bad that they're kind of expensive. If most guys already have a tractor, there's no way they're going to buy a pallet mover. Kind of like what you would see on the back of a Home Depot truck.
Like a Moffett.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be very handy for all of you woodyard guys that are moving these things around all day long. That would definitely be something to look into. But I guess let's get to splitting some wood up here and quit talking so much. All of the benefits that I've found with this particular splitter, there isn't a one thing I don't love about this other than one concerning point about it, and I've talked to Adam, and if he'll let me, I think we'll try and come up with an idea for it. Some of you might not think it's necessary, but it also only really pertains to this particular style of splitter where it's running vertical. Now keep in mind that every cut is not perfectly flat or perfectly even, so this log might be cut on a little bit of an angle, might be tipped like that. It all depends on if there was a bend in the log and however, but if it's tipped like this, one of the things I noticed, and I noticed it last year when I was over at Adam's helping, let's say it's like that and your top knife comes down and contacts that log and it starts to split. Every once in a while, it will want to kick that log out. Adam says there's a fix for it. He always rotates his log this way, so if it splits or kicks, it goes back here. That's okay because then it's not going to catch you in the groin. But I don't know at what point in time, and I've seen over my years logs under tension that could kick to the bottom, which is okay, but then that means this could kick towards you at the chest. So that's always been a concern, a safety of mine. And what I was thinking was if I took and created some kind of hitch mount point that slides into here, comes up and comes around, so there's like a steel beam across here. What that'll do, and if it's maybe 4 or 5 inches high, that steel beam would protect you, because as this splitter's going down and it's under compression and it starts, you hear the motor bog down, you know that there's a lot of tension in that log. There's nothing to say that it won't stop and kick out, catch you in the groin, catch you in the gut, whatever. And that actually scares me. And I've had it happen to me once on this machine. And Adam was speaking of another YouTuber out there that I believe they showed it in one of his videos. So a simple fix I thought for that was just put kind of like a trailer hitch receiver in here with some welded tubes that come up, like I said, with that beam. And if you had a big log that was too big, you could pull that out, rotate it, and move it down to get it out of the way. But for the majority of the splits, all this stuff that's under 24 inches, it would never get in the way. So as that beam is up here, you can run, and it acts as a protection device to keep that log from ever kicking out towards you. So I may look into that if Adam will allow me to maybe prototype something or try something out. Here is where that kicking out thing, if that was under tension and it split and slid out, you can see where that could come down and hit you. That's why I want to try and talk or come up with some kind of bar there. Things I like is that foot control. I can literally lead that blade wherever I want. So I'll show you. If I'm coming down through a log, I can lighten up on it and I can hold it right there. I can come down a little more or I can go back up. That's what's really nice, is this is all controlled just by my foot, not a lever I'm reaching for. A lot of those machines have automatic returns and everything, but you would have to hold that lever with one hand. This leaves me with two hands to manipulate the log. If I need to come back up and readjust, come back down. That foot control is top notch. So when I want to double split this log, I want to cut it in half this way and this way, I don't have to let this handle return all the way to its home position. As in some of those other splitters that have the automatic return, I can keep my foot here, split it, and I only have to return to the height of the log. I can leave it here with my foot on a little bit, rotate it to where I'm not waiting for it to go that extra 8 inches.
Imagine trying to split that with an axe.
Yeah. The more I run this splitter, the more I like this one. Better than by hand and better than a horizontal. It's starting to get a little windy out. The temperatures I think are supposed to cool off. We're at about 60 right now. Beautiful February, late February day, and I got Adam still here. Wanted to thank him for helping me, and most of all, letting me actually borrow this to see if there was anything that could come to my mind as to how could we do this or make this any better. And I'll be completely point blank honest with you. Again, not sponsored. I'm just using this thing to split some of my own firewood, but I think EASTONMADE here has got a pretty solid unit as far as convenience for the operator. It's not hard on your back. It's safer. You're not doing a lot of bending and leaning and lifting and pulling and all that. And for a guy like Adam that's 9 foot 3 inches tall, having that height up there really makes it nice that he's not bent over something that's 2.5 feet off the ground. So I could see why he got rid of his conventional splitter for one of these vertical ones. I guess we're going to wrap it up here. Leave me some comments on if you were going to buy a splitter or if you have a splitter. Have you used one of these? Would you be willing to sell yours to get one of these? I ultimately believe that after running this one, compared to the splitters that I've run for many, many years ago, in a heartbeat, I would buy one of these because of just the sheer convenience, the comfort that's with it. And like I said, there isn't a thing on this thing that I could think that I would change to try and make a little better. We talked about that guarding. Is it necessary? No. The only other thing I would try to do is run a throttle cable up here somewhere. So if somebody stopped by or wanted to talk, I could throttle this thing down somewhere close by rather than having to walk around the machine. We're going to end it here. Thanks. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. And we'll see you again soon.